Yeah, I realized I didn't use enough PPE. So in the last video, a restaurant asked me to print some soy sauce container lids. Things went well until I realized that some toxins from the 3D printer components can get into the 3D printed lids, like lead. So how will I prevent potential toxins from the 3D printed lids from getting into people's soy sauce? One way is to replace all the potentially toxic parts in my 3D printer. That solution would only be used for this one project and would cost a couple $100. Saran wrap doesn't look good, and it's also too clingy. I settled on food-safe epoxy resin. The resin also solves the bacterial problem with 3D prints. 3D printed material produces grooves that bacteria just vibe in. Epoxy resin fills in those grooves and makes a smooth surface, making the bacteria feel bad vibes and just leave. Encasing the potential toxins in epoxy resin prevents it from escaping. Reality is, 3D printed lids could be fine for soy sauce, as contact is not frequent. However, it is better to be safe than sorry. To use the resin, I simply started by mixing both solutions, 2:1 ratio. Applying the resin was a bit tricky, as the handles made the surface slanted. I waited for a couple of days to make sure the epoxy resin cured. Then, I realized a problem with how I handled the epoxy resin. Yeah, I realized I didn't use enough PPE. I started to feel dizzy and started coughing, totally normal. Turns out, I had to buy an air respirator that filtered out organic vapors. The warning label only suggested that a face shield should be used. I just used a normal mask and thought it was fine, but nope. Turns out you actually needed a full-on gas mask, not even a face shield, to be sure that you were safe. It looks cool though, so I'll give it that. Fortunately, I was in a big basement, allowing for a lower concentration of epoxy fumes in the air at the time. Alright, so the resin dried. Let's test it on the soy sauce container to see if it still fits. Epoxy makes the diameters a little bit thicker, so we'll need to see if it actually fits. And as it turns out, 1.73 inch diameter is still king. The resin works with the lid. Now, we can mass produce. However, putting on epoxy resin on the lids makes the resin slide down, as you've seen before, as the handle of the lid tilts the bottom surface. I had to create a new 3D model of a stand that allowed the lids to sit flat. When I was printing the lids, it really sucked that I had a lot of prints that were very nearly finished. Eventually, I just gave up on fixing the problem of my 3D printer flaking on me at the last second. And finally, let's finish this project. Alright, so hopefully I don't get sick or anything, because I was coughing last time I was doing this, so hopefully this gas mask actually works. Here we go. Now that we have all the epoxy resin coated 3D printed lids, we can send them off to the restaurant. I also got $50. Over the past few weeks, I was very busy competing at robotics competitions, which I will probably make videos on, which was why I wasn't able to post often. I want to thank everyone who has stuck around to the end. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked this video, click the like button. It is much appreciated. Maybe even subscribe? Maybe? Again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.